Happy Patch Tuesday, everybody. And yeah, it's Valentine's Day week. All that good stuff is coming up here, but more importantly, we've got some real interesting and spicy vulnerabilities for you today. Some nice CVEs, you know?
Absolutely. We made it to February, which is, crazy to think about how quick January went. But yeah, we're deep in it now, deep into the year, basically.
We're kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like the outer end of the year. We're just grazing the year, but.
I don't know.
Brian, what did you say earlier about the roller coaster? The bars they're down and they're not going up now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We're strapped in. The bars are down. You can cry, you can vomit, but it's all going to be caught on camera on this podcast.
Perfect.
It's true. It's very true.
And that is the year that we are on, and I'm sure things are just going to pop off. It'll be fun, or not. But Henry, why don't you kick us off with your spicy ones?
Alrighty, let's see. So we're gonna switch it up a bit. I'm actually gonna go back in time and bring up a CVE from last month. So CVE 2025-21293, and that's an Active Directory domain services elevation of privilege vulnerability. So the main reason we're bringing it up again is because an exploit POC has been released and is live on the interwebs now. This vulnerability was interesting because it allows attackers, of course, to gain system-level privileges within an Active Directory domain due to a lesser known, I didn't know about this security group until now, but there's a lesser known built-in security group called Network Configuration Operators. And from what I've read is this group is supposed to grant limited network configuration privileges to users without giving them full admin. But of course, it was found to have excessive permissions over some sensitive registry keys. So exploiting permissions of this group could allow an attacker to register, get this, a malicious performance counter. Yes, a performance counter.
What?
So, yes. So once they register the malicious performance counter, they can then that will be executed with system level privileges. And actually, the proof of concept includes a skeleton of a performance counter DLL with all the necessary parts already included, making the bar of entry on this one pretty low. So you probably
for educational purposes only, though, right? For educational purposes.
Yeah, exactly. No bad people will use it.
Definitely.
Good. I'm glad they added that in there because it's important when you're releasing your POCs on GitHub that are fully fleshed out and may or may not contain Cobalt Strike beacons already built in, that you put that disclaimer on there so our friends on the other side can not use those ones, right? They know which ones not to use.
Yeah, you got to test it out in your own environment, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you can't patch for this one, there are some registry keys that I mentioned earlier that you can register or that you can monitor for unauthorized modifications. All right, this month. So CVE 2025-21418. This is the Windows Ancillary Function Driver for WinSock Elevation of Privilege Vulnerability. What a mouthful. So the ancillary function driver is that afd.sys file. And all we can see at the moment about this one is that it's another one where an attacker can exploit it for system privileges, and the complexity is pretty low. Along with that, this one stood out because the exploitability assessment shows that while an exploit isn't public, the vuln is actively being exploited. And this one affects Windows 10, 11, and even back to Server 2008 and all the other server iterations. And, I like to try and talk about these vulnerabilities the best I can. But being completely transparent here, I've heard of WinSock before. I know it has something to do with network communications with Windows, but I had to do some extra digging on this one, which led me to a previous CVE 2023-21768 that affected the same driver. And the too long didn't read there is the issue arises from my favorite thing of all time, improper handling of user mode input, which allows...
I knew it was going to be that. I knew it.
every time I'm on here, I swear, it allows an attacker to send a malicious input-output control request to the AFD driver. And in fact, someone crafted an exploit around this where a low privilege user would just run like an executable and provide a process ID of the process that they want to elevate. And boom, they have system privileges just like that. So definitely patch for that one.
Yeah. That one to me is another one of those spicy ones where it'll be in your favorite CTF one day, right?
Exactly.
Like it's exactly what it is, you know. Yep. Just one like that where, hey, download this exe and you just put in the PID and you're good to go. Boom, system.
Oh my God.
Where it's focused on, you know, enumeration and those similar type vulnerabilities. But yeah, definitely I agree with Henry in a lot of these. They're very, I feel like the bar of entry is so low a lot of the times nowadays with a lot of these vulnerabilities that you just go on GitHub and you get what you need. You don't even need to go anywhere else, right? Like, and it, you know, I might go on a little rant here, and it's funny too because a lot of the news recently is the FBI took down a couple of forums, right? Like Knoll and a couple of other hacking forums, and it's like, you know, I get it, right? A lot of exploits and stuff, and data is sold there, but you really don't need to go to those places anymore in the modern age. You can just go to GitHub and get any POC you need for a ton of vulnerabilities and build those into your toolkits, right? So it's the ebb and flows of our industry, right?
Yeah. I mean, I guess the difference is the forums are for, you know, malicious activities, whereas GitHub is for the proof of concepts, you know, like it's
educational
purposes only, you know?
Yeah.
That should be like the title of most of those forums, for educational purposes only, you know?
Speaking of the user, right? When was the last time any of us used the Windows disk cleanup tool?
The last time I used a rotational drive.
But this month, February, we have a elevation of privilege in the Windows disk cleanup tool, CVE 2025-21420, which to me is just both funny and kind of sad at the same time that there is a elevation of privilege vulnerability in this specific tool, and that it is still very prevalent in Microsoft, given that I think I used it all the way back in the early 2000s. You know, it's just funny to me that I don't ever, it's just one of those where I don't think I've seen something like this in a long time. And it feels like, and maybe this is just my, you know, big paranoid hat, but it feels like people are poking at these systems that they know will impact servers that are reaching end of life, right? Server 2008, server 2012, that are very heavily prevalent in the enterprise still, and they're looking for vulnerabilities and ways to exploit these things that may or may not get patched in the future as Microsoft, you know, deprecates these OSs. So when I see this one, this to me feels like that. Somebody poking at things and looking at things that most people have skipped over the last 10 years. And it, you know, I think it'll be in an interesting 5 to 10 years, right? As we all know, it took people, 7 to 10 years to get off XP, and there's still stuff that's driven by XP nowadays.
I was going to say, are you sure that people actually got off that? Because like, I have seen some things.
Should we take bets when a POC is going to be out for this one?
I'm more curious on your all's thoughts on like how this is being leveraged. Like, is it because like it's interacting with a lot of like temporary directories and like it's, you know, navigating something like that that's allowing them to get system level privileges and then move laterally? Like, I don't know. What are your all's vibes? We're just talking vibes.
I mean, the details are pretty limited that Microsoft provided, but to me, it feels like something like that, right? There's a lot of moving parts when you're defragging a hard drive, so maybe there's some race condition, right? What's that?
You're too young for that, Henry. No.
Maybe there's. He's got him.
The cleanup tool has been around since Windows 98. Okay.
Oh, I know.
So I was alive
for 4 years.
For one.
Yeah, Brian.
I'm the oldest one on this call.
But yeah, kind of to Ryan's point earlier, because you got to think it's probably something to do with something the user can control, right? Some kind of user input. And, maybe it's like you got to craft like a malicious file that the disk cleanup utility like goes over. Something like that. I'm really excited to see what comes out for this one.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like, who's done a deep dive into Windows disk cleanup? I don't think has there ever been a write-up around like the inner workings of how to defrag using Windows cleanup? It feels very I don't know. It's really cool.
Yeah, it feels like trying. It's probably one of those things where it's like it'll be ridiculous if it's not this, but like it feels like diving off of a high dive into a shot glass kind of thing. But like, if the bar is much lower, this will be a really spicy one.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, yeah,
absolutely.
But yeah, we also have like a nice little third party patching one. 7-zip. Pretty much anything prior to 24.09 could potentially be exploited around this. And it basically allows the attacker to use some arbitrary code execution on it by passing what's that system called that it bypasses?
The mark of the web system?
Yeah, mark of the web, yeah. It's really interesting. This one kind of like speaks to me just because, we deal with like pipelines all the time. And so I always think of things that can be, executed without user interaction in some way, besides just like downloading it and getting on your device and unzipping it. Like I always think of that kind of stuff like in Jenkins pipelines, GitHub Actions pipelines, like how does that kind of thing possibly break free from that? And like, how does it affect like the, overall systems that are attached to it? So
yeah, absolutely. I do feel there's kind of inbuilt trust to zip files nowadays, and people will download things, and then like if it's an exe, there's kind of a little bit of paranoia running it, right? Like maybe not this one specifically, but a 7-zip. There's that trust built in where, well, it's just an archive. I can unarchive it and I'm still safe because I'm not running the executable. And for vulnerabilities like this, that's not necessarily the case, right? There are some protections that are bypassed, and just unarchiving an archive, you could accidentally execute arbitrary code on your local system, which to me is just, don't trust anything you download, I guess.
Seriously though, yeah.
Or at least have like some proper file scanning like in place, like in like your pipelines or on your computers as a whole. Hopefully your EDRs are rocking and rolling on that one. But absolutely. Other than that, patch it.
And just to kind of circle back, mark of the web for anyone who's unfamiliar, I think that's just like a Windows way of like indicating that a file originated from the internet. So it helps like Defender kind of perform some additional inspection of that. So I think this vulnerability in question, it bypasses that. Is that right, Ryan?
Yeah, it completely bypasses it. So I'm assuming that maybe that's possibly bypasses the scanning on Defender as a whole, like you said.
Right.
But I wonder how other EDRs would react to it. Like if something like a CrowdStrike or a SentinelOne or something like that would react differently, kind of thing. Like doesn't care if it has mark of the web or not. So
yeah, good call. Right, like a lot of that is behavioral when those EDRs, right? Like they detect that stuff behaviorally when some things do weird stuff like that. So I would, yeah, that's a good interesting call out on how non-Windows based CDRs would do specifically for this attack method.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to test it out ourselves.
I was just getting ready to say, I think it's something we might be able to play with internally here.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of this just, it erodes the trust. I think about these ones and I think about, right, like a lot of the remote code execution vulnerabilities that come and go in like Chrome, where all you got to do is navigate to a malicious website and you accidentally, download some kind of keylogger or something. Like this is just kind of, it's eroding trust in a lot of these completely trusted systems we have as security practitioners these days.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've experienced a lot of this over the last year alone with all these different, like, third-party systems, even open source systems have had some major issues over the last year. And, obviously calling out the XZ vuln is the easy one. So,
absolutely.
I don't know. It's just one of those things where it keeps you on your toes and trust no one. But,
layer up too.
What's that?
I said layer up, defense in depth. I feel like that's another thing
yes.
I talk about every time is like defense in depth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Having just any good processes in place or controls to just, it's a good call. But
speaking of eroding trust, Apple released 15.3, and there's a really good one in here for everyone going to Hacker Summer Camp later this year that I think will please update your device before you go out there, because this one is a good one. CVE 2025-24126, which is a vulnerability in AirPlay. An attacker on the local network may be able to cause unexpected system termination or corrupt process memory. So you're just walking around and, you join the DEF CON Wi-Fi and there's someone on there doing something they ain't supposed to be doing and crashing Macs, crashing phones. This is just, it just reminds me of like the Bluetooth one and, pair with this TV and all those troll vulnerabilities. Yeah, all those troll vulnerabilities that happen when you're out at DEF CON, when you have your Bluetooth on, right? Like this one is specifically, targeting local network, Wi-Fi, etc. But just,
I wonder how that works on like a hotel Wi-Fi that is separated a bit, but like I wonder, like I just think about these things, like you don't need a pineapple to do any of this stuff. Like it's just network access.
Are they allowing devices to communicate with each other? Like I don't know if I've ever seen a device at a hotel like join this TV's AirPlay, but maybe.
I think I've seen, but I can't tell if it was over Bluetooth. I got to think about that. Like if it was the network or just because like you'll be in a hotel room and you'll get if you pack a Chromecast or something with you and you go to like pair it with it, you'll see like every IoT on there. And then you'll see like a few phones scattered in there, and you're like, "Can I talk between this network to like these other people, or is that just the Bluetooth?" Like, and I'm just close enough through the walls. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
There's because they usually want you to sign in on like the TV itself. If you want to watch Netflix or something, a lot of them are doing that now, where they make you sign into the TV, and that that's a good call. Can I hit other Apple devices on a local network at a Wi-Fi and cause some havoc with this one specifically?
Yeah.
So
you brought up DEF CON, so I immediately thought hotel. Yeah. Everyone, all these people are at a hotel, or if they're smart, like an Airbnb separate from a hotel.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good one for Mac, I think. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, that's our spicy February. here. I think those are a lot of like really fun and interesting ones. Fun depending on who you are. Interesting for sure.
Yeah.
Not so fun if you're defending against all of these, but
yeah. Patch your stuff, everybody. Keep up to date and I don't know, read the patch notes.